Session. Good afternoon. You're all very welcome to this session, and the purpose of the session is to discuss and present to you the new widening instruments from a more operational and practical perspective. The session gathers stakeholders, intermediaries, and potential applicants, especially from widening countries. I have the honor to moderate today, and we have half a dozen speakers. And the first speaker is going to be my colleague.
Shall I put here?
Sorry about this.
She doesn't know which is it.
My colleague, Karina Firkavi-Chuti. Karina, you have the floor.
Thanks a lot, and good morning, good afternoon already. Happy to see you all here, which means for me that you might be interested in either applying for those new actions under widening participation package, or you are interested to hear and explain to others what is new, what is more interesting, what are still the questions to be clarified. So we start today with speaking about teaming, as it is a flagship instrument within the widening participation package. So it's about creating or modernizing a single center of excellence that is, of course, relevant at a national level, and it's operating in a certain scientific domain. So we say, and we hope that the center would build a solid partnership and strong engagement of all partners that are required to be there, that it will be fully autonomous in its decision makings, and it will be planned with a certain insight already for the future to become a fully sustainable and fully independent center the moment the Horizon Europe grant is over. So these are the key success factors that we consider very much important, and they of course would contribute to the objectives that are related to this teaming action, and namely to stimulate reforms at the national research and innovation system, of course, for increasing the level of excellence of national systems, but also mobilizing new investments. So how it would work? Teaming, as it used to be under Horizon 2020, is a coordination and support action. So this is not a research action. However, the coordination and support action that has a certain portfolio of research costs available. It will go for up to 6 years, and Horizon Europe grant is planned to be up to 15 million. It is a very important additional condition here that an equivalent and obligatory amount to this up to 15 million needs to come from another source, whatever source you can find about, but this complementary funding is necessary and obligatory. This time under Horizon Europe, the novelty is about a single application procedure. There will be no more teaming 1 or teaming 2. It is a single teaming application with a 2-stage evaluation procedure, and with a very important step on the second stage of evaluation, namely the joint evaluation of both funding sources, so Horizon Europe and that other complementary funding. They both will be evaluated together. The consortium structure required for teaming action is the same as it used to be under Horizon 2020. So the main beneficiary has to come from the widening country, and it has to come at least one, but also possible more, strategic advanced partners as partners for this consortium. It should be a university or a research organization, absolutely coming from a different country. And this advanced partner needs to have a certain renommee. It has to be a leading institution in that particular scientific domain that you have chosen, so that it could bring its knowledge to the widening partners. Important to underline the novelties that come here with the teaming grant under Horizon Europe. And there are 3 of them that I have put on the slide here. So it is a requirement to well justify that scientific field that you have chosen for the operation, since teaming is a free, a bottom-up action. So you choose a certain scientific field, you need to very well justify and explain why this field, how does this relate, how your application relates and the future center to the state of art in that field. It is important to note also that, as mentioned, so a certain research cost portfolio is eligible, even it is a coordination support action. It should not exceed 10% of the total Horizon Europe grant. So it will be needed to explain what kind of research and what kind of activities under this work package will be planned or will be implemented. As well, in this action, in this application, more emphasis is put, and it is much more required for the applicants to pay more attention to the research management capacities that will be linked to your organization, to the center, and to the institutions. These are really very important novelties, so please be aware of them and prepare well the consortium and the application. We say that mainly those novelties, but also others, are enabled through several new legislation that is adopted or being adopted and is relevant especially to the teaming actions. So these are the two main regulations that I mentioned here on the slide. Is the general block exemption regulation that speaks about the state aid, and another one, the common provision regulation that is defining all the conditions for the shared management funds. So this is all relevant for your future applications, for the future grants. Please have a look on those conditions. Teaming is explicitly mentioned in both regulations, so certain conditions are aligned. Therefore, synergies are really enabled and should be working. And you need to pay much more attention to that as well. We expect with this flagship initiative under Widening that the general research and innovation culture in your country and in your institution would be improved while implementing this action, that the teaming would give a certain stimulus for institutional and systemic reforms at the national level, that of course it would facilitate it would encourage the mutual learning and two-way benefits among the widening country and the partners from advanced institutions, advanced countries. And of course, this all is in order to develop new research strengths, new research capabilities for your institution and for your domains. We hope very much you would understand all these details and novelties well, and you will take the challenge to apply and to bring your knowledge and to take advantage of existing instruments in developing your system and also making the European research area to advance. So these not research actions are actually facilitating all kinds of capacity and knowledge building, and we hope very much you will use it with the profit for you. Thank you very much, and open for any questions later.
Thank you very much, Karina, and very good on the timing. That was spot on. Yes, as Karina was saying at the end, we are taking questions. We've got people monitoring, we've colleagues monitoring the chat, and we will take questions. If you want to send your questions, we will take them at the end of the presentations. The next speaker to come on is my colleague Stefan Veers. Stefan, in fact, Karina, Stefan, and I work in the European Research Area Governance and Implementation Unit, which is headed by Manuel Alexo, and Stefan leads the sector Widening, ERA, and Research Infrastructure Programming. He has more than 20 years' experience in European research cooperation, including the SME program, environmental and space research. Stefan, over to you, and keep an eye on the time, please. We can't hear you. Stefan, we can't hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Karen, thank you very much. I would just like to see my slides. Maybe somebody could continue. I play one. There's a presentation missing.
Celine, are you there to do
Celine, can you play?
Stefan's slides?
There should be a PowerPoint presentation on the excellence hubs.
Oh, we apologize about this to all viewers. This wasn't foreseen. Is anybody connected from VO hosts?
No, our technical support has vanished apparently.
Stefan, I'm sorry, I don't have the access to those slides.
I don't have them either because they were uploaded.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will try. Sorry to the audience that
Hang on.
apparently there was.
Yes. Can you?
Okay, I
Stefan,
see it now.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah.
Now it is here. Okay, sorry for the slight delay due to a little technical issue. So I would like to talk now about the Excellence Hubs, which is a novelty in our program. And first I would like to explain you why we are having this in Widening. So first of all, there was a requirement set by the legislator that we should run in our program, in the new program for Widening under Horizon Europe, initiatives for fostering excellence. And after some discussion with stakeholders and internally, we have decided that we run two complementary schemes for fostering excellence. One of them focusing on excellence for innovation. Another one is more focusing on the excellence in academic institutions and higher education institutions. This will be covered by my colleague Stijn Delore in the subsequent presentation. But what is actually meant to be excellence hubs? So what we have identified in many studies and in many statistics and data is that especially in the widening country, there is what we call the innovation divide. And the innovation divide is somehow related to the lack of knowledge transfer and linkages between the academic system and the business sector. And there are not traditional links and ties as we have in Western Europe, where you often have a quite close collaboration between the industry and the academic institutions. But nevertheless, there are encouraging signals and collaboration networks in many also of the widening countries. And this we want to support. And as a conceptual model or as a, let's say, as the approach, underlying approach, we have chosen the famous Quadruple Helix approach. This may sound to you a bit academic, and indeed this concept has been born in many academic papers about innovation systems, innovation theory, but also practice. But it has not stayed in the domain of academic papers, but it has already materialized in many places in the world. For instance, in the United States and in Europe, in the more advanced regions in Europe, where it turned out that innovation diffusion, development of innovation and uptake is flourishing, especially if there are four kind of different partners are working closely together. This is the academia, universities or research centers, then the commercial business sector, but also the regional government, and but last but not least, societal actors, media and other players who might be the amplifier for the developments undertaken by the other partners. And this quadruple helix approach has become a kind of a brand and a quite established approach. In addition, we would also like to focus on this principle of geographic proximity because it has turned out that such ecosystem where all these four kinds of players are working together closely are especially well functioning if they are operating in a territorial or place-based context. Although we know that nowadays, in times of WebEx and all kinds of online tools, geographic proximity is not anymore the only factor for success, but it's still valid, and we want to promote it with this idea. In the past, you may have heard that often people in this community were talking about clusters, but clusters are still sometimes functioning, but a bit outdated because sometimes they are not so dynamic and much more inward looking than ecosystems. So our idea is now that we develop a particular scheme to promote this innovation in widening countries based on this quadruple helix approach and make them work together. So we want to encourage a border crossing collaboration. So not only in a certain region, but we want to connect several of these ecosystems. But we have quite clear ideas about the content and the outcome of these projects. I will go into the details of that at a bit later stage, but in general, we would require that these projects are built alongside clear strategies for R&I, and these strategies have to be aligned either with regional smart specialization strategies or European policy priorities. European policy priorities, for instance, could be the Green Deal or the digital transitions. So go to the next. So what would be the concrete implementation? So we have published the work program recently, and in early November this year still, a call will be open for coordination and support actions grants. And the deadline for submission of proposals will be in March 22. We imagine that a project can be funded with up to 5 million euro, and in the consortium, we should have at least 2 of such quadruple helix ecosystem from 2 different countries, at least, but it could also be more. And this consortium needs to have a common agenda, a common narrative that can, for instance, be a European value-adding chain, but also another subject or domain of common interest. In this case, we have no explicit advanced partner, unlike teaming and twinning. There will be no advanced partner, but we will allow also the participation of non-widening partners in order to promote knowledge transfer and also to support the development of sustainable value-adding chains. We would imagine, or we would like to see, of course, that it is a widening project. That means that the center of gravity of the activity should be in the widening countries. We will analyze this in the evaluation. One indicator for that could be the budget distribution. So I would say if there are at least 70% of budget allocated to the partners in widening countries, this condition would be fulfilled. For the project, we would like to have we have a very particular idea also about the content of the core modules that could be in the project. First of all, the partners should develop a cross-border joint R&I strategy aligned with the strategic priorities or smart specialization strategies. Then within that strategy, within the scope of that strategy, the partners can develop a joint R&I project focusing, of course, at higher TRL level. So it should not be basic fundamental research, but research and innovation that is closer to the market and would especially strengthen the linkages between the academic system and the business. The next component, the next core component would be an action and investment plan for the implementation of the strategy. This should involve also other funding sources, and we would like to see here especially synergies with cohesion funds, although the consortium should establish a very clear plan how to access this fund and how to align it with the regional operational program. In addition, what we would allow for, and we encourage, but it is not mandatory, that there could be the conceptual design and the pre-planning for pilots and demonstrators in the chosen domain. And last but not least, the project can propose a bunch of accompanying measures that will help to raise the visibility of the consortium, to improve citizen engagement, technology transfer, but also entrepreneurship training, staff exchange, mutual learning. So this is a bit related to skills, development of skills of people in these regions. So I go. So last but not least, I will talk a few. I have
Finishing up.
no time anymore. Okay, the expected impact is to have the R&I results better translated into the economy, improved environment for business R&I investment, to develop regional innovation ecosystem, and especially a better involvement of regional actors in European R&I initiatives. And last but not least is to develop a local regional innovation culture in widening countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefan. We had difficulty listening to about the last minute, but maybe we can come back to it in the end of chats, because unfortunately you're over time. But thank you. Our next speaker is my colleague, Stijn de Loor, who's a policy officer in the R&I Actors and Research Careers Unit, where he focuses on policy development for higher education institutions and following up on the European Universities initiatives.
Thank you,
Today,
Karen.
Stijn is going to introduce another novelty in the work program, specific support for institutional changes in academia. Stijn, over to you.
So thank you, Karen. Good afternoon, everyone. So through Horizon Europe, special attention will be given to ensuring cooperation between universities, scientific communities, societal actors, and industry. Our aim is to transform research innovation ecosystems across the entire European research area. And universities and other higher education institutions are core actors to amplify that. Through the European Excellence Initiative, under the widening participation part, Horizon Europe support aims at the transformation of higher education sector and their surrounding ecosystems. It will include research activities in strategically relevant domains with a center of gravity in the widening countries. With this topic, we want to build capacity in terms of networks of higher education institutions and induce cooperation between with actors in the surrounding ecosystems. It will induce change, and the purpose is to lift all boats through collaboration with other universities, with other actors such as businesses, cities, cultural entities, and so on. We will offer €2 million per project in the form of a coordination support action to small or larger networks of higher education institutions and their local partners. It can be existing or new cross-border collaborations. The call will open next week with a submission deadline on the 4th of November this year. Next slide, please. So next slide. Of course, I need to do it myself. Apologies for that. So we have budgetary room to support 15 consortia. Consortia should consist of at least 2 organizations from higher education sector in a widening country or in different widening countries, by linking them with at least 2 internationally leading institutions from 2 different member states or associated countries. And the bulk of the funding is supposed to go to the partners in the widening countries. Proposals for this call are expected to clearly outline the cooperation and strategy for stimulating scientific excellence and innovation capacity in defined areas of research and innovation. They are expected to strengthen the scientific quality of the partners involved. The work could include priority areas for institutional change, as indicated here on the slide. But the way forward with these suggested areas and within the different priority areas remains up to the consortia. This is a guidance, and these are examples. So one area could be to develop shared research innovation strategies and roadmaps to create thematic and also interdisciplinary critical mass in order to improve societal impact in certain areas. Another area could be to strategies to share capacity, infrastructures, and resources. Develop roadmaps to effectively start doing that. Strengthening attractiveness of research careers is another area in order to develop a pipeline of talents, which can include reforming career assessment, taking on board a broad spectrum of excellence indicators, also beyond the usual publication indicators. Cooperation with surrounding ecosystem actors, obviously, for the transmission of not only knowledge, but also talents, through creation or reinforcing of knowledge transfer officers or cooperation platforms. The transition to knowledge and digitally driven universities, basically meaning to mainstream open science practices, creating proximity to and as well engaging citizens for solving the societal challenges, and also supporting institutional change through inclusive gender equality plans, which is not on the slide, could be an area. Where relevant, any links with sustainable development goals and the green transition, the digital transition of the European Union are to be outlined. Next slide. So the call targets higher education sector. I need to clarify this. This may include any type of university, but also research organizations, academies of science, polytechnic universities, University of Applied Science, specialized laboratories. It is a wide diversity of higher education institutions that we are targeting, not only comprehensive universities. Partners in the local ecosystem surrounding these institutions, such as businesses, societal actors, the cities, other non-academic entities, are really encouraged to join as partner organizations. We expect to obtain integrated and longer-term cooperation between the higher education institutions involved and the partners. We expect raised excellence profiles of the institutions from the widening country and of their staff. We expect progress, tangible progress in institutional change, for instance, through pilots or case studies in the areas I mentioned in the previous slide. This call may also help networks to prepare to embark on potential future calls for the European Universities Initiative, which was launched in 2019 by under Erasmus and also complemented through Horizon funding. Currently, we are co-creating the further rollout of this initiative together with the 41 European university pilot projects, with stakeholder organizations and also with member states. Now, this particular call we have been explaining is a preparatory action. The European Excellence Initiative will be part of the complementary support offered by Horizon Europe to this European University Initiative to realize true synergies between, on the one hand, the European education area, on the other hand, the European research area, and in particular also between Erasmus Plus and Horizon Europe. Thank you. That was my presentation.
Thank you very much, Stijn. And as I said earlier, we will take questions at the end if necessary. We have colleagues monitoring the chats and we'll come back to those at the end. We're not running out of time, but maybe the next two speakers could speed up a little bit. I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Ronald de Bruin, who's a director at the COST Association. And before joining COST, Ronald was director of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology and head of department of the European Network and Information Security Agency. Okay, and you should know that Dr. de Bruin has authored several books on leadership, digital television, online consumer trust, and computer security. Thank you. over to you, Ronald. You're very welcome to this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. And well, let me then immediately shift gears and point out that our main purpose is to provide networking opportunities for researchers and innovators to tackle Europe's challenges. But we do this in a bottom-up, open, excellence-driven, and a multidisciplinary way in all fields of science. Our focus for the Horizon Europe period is, first of all, to promote and to spread excellence throughout the entire European research area. We also, second, foster interdisciplinary research to make sure that breakthrough discoveries are made possible. And last but not least, we as COST very much try to boost the careers of young researchers. Now, COST is already around for 50 years. As a matter of fact, this year we celebrate our 50th anniversary. And last month's ministerial conference provided us with the political backing to go ahead. And it also reconfirmed the value of the COST program and its place in the heart of the European research area as its leading networking tool. Now, when I talk about networking, I have to, of course, immediately explain that the networks that we support are called COST actions, and they typically organize conferences and meetings, training schools, short-term mobility, dissemination activities, of course, but also more recently, we have introduced virtual networking grants. Researchers can participate by submitting a proposal or, and that is the uniqueness about COST, join a running action. And if you want to know the answer to the most frequently unanswered question, meaning how to write a successful proposal, well, I would invite you to join us as an expert evaluator. So then you will look into the proposals and see what is good practice. On top of our core business, we offer added value services such as training under the umbrella of our COST Academy. As an example, we organize trainings for grant holders, focusing more on the financial and administrative aspects of managing a grant. We organize stakeholder conferences on particular topics that are high on the EU's policy agenda, for example, the Green Deal, for example, the digital transformation, cultural heritage, just to name a few, but also in other fields that are further down the road in Horizon, linked to, for example, the missions. The other service that we are focusing on is to foster science-informed policy advice. And here I would like to mention that altogether, our participants form a pool of 45,000 active researchers in our networks, and depending on the disciplines that they are in, the expertise that is needed, we can leverage that wealth of knowledge to science advisory mechanisms as set up by the Commission or also with the Joint Research Center. Let me also mention as an added value service that we have put in place since a bit more than a year an add-on grant that we call the COST Innovators grant. This is to provide an opportunity for actions to explore innovation potential throughout the year that will culminate eventually into a business plan. And ideally, that will result in either a direct investment or, on the other hand, let's say the hooking up to other funding schemes in the field of innovation, for example, that of the European Innovation Institute of Innovation and Technology, the EIT, or the more recently established EIC. Indeed, I also would like to mention that COST is a pre-portal to other, let's say, instruments in the Horizon arena. We systemically measure the proposals that are submitted, so we know the number, but also the number of proposals that have been submitted successfully. And it appears that the success rate of spin-off proposals, at least from the COST program, results in a success rate of 37%. That means that the success rate compared to the average of Horizon proposals triples if you participate in cost and meet other partners there with whom you would like to submit a follow-up proposal. Now, let me certainly also underline that cost in Horizon Europe is fully integrated into the widening package. We are indeed a core widening instrument. We are investing at least 50% of our budget to the benefit of widening participants. The number of participants from widening countries is growing steadily from 3.3 on average to 16 participants per action. We have about 300 actions running. The researchers from those countries in leadership positions has also doubled from 445 in 2016 to 765 in 2020. Let me also mention that 18% of the action chairs are from widening countries. And I mentioned that we are, of course, also aiming to boost the careers of young researchers. And in this respect, the young researchers in leadership positions has grown from 16% in 2016 to almost 20% in 2020. So in conclusion, I would like to retain by saying that cost is indeed on the move, also in Horizon Europe, and we really want to make our contribution in making the European research area even stronger. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ronald. And now, without further ado, I would like to ask my colleague Stefan back. Our colleague Adeline is unfortunately ill, so Stefan will give her talk. Stefan, I would remind you if you could speed up a little if we want to have some questions at the end.
Yes, thank you very much, Karen. And indeed,
Thank you, Stefan.
I will turn it more into an announcement, and I will steal a few minutes from my own time because I was exceeding a bit the other presentation. So what
I didn't say that.
Yeah, but I say it bluntly. but I'm in the comfortable position that I can pinch my own presentation that I'm giving for another colleague. But I think here the key message to be retained is here. What I wanted to draw your attention to two new services that we will provide. One is a service package for applicants as a part of the Advancing Europe package. And this will be done in collaboration with our NCP network. And the NCP under Widening and ERA, they will receive also a much upgraded budget, and they will be able to provide a lot of services to the applicants, for instance, pre-proposal checks, webinars, training and coaching, and also matchmaking and brokerage event. We had already a project under Horizon 2020. We have made very good experience, and this consortium will continue with a significantly upscaled service package. The second thing I would like to draw your attention to is this famous hop-on facility that you may have discovered in the work program. The hop-on is a new opportunity for partners from widening countries to join already ongoing existing consortia of projects under the Pillar 2 of Horizon Europe. We will open a dedicated call for this as of the 4th January of 2022. The proposals must be submitted by the coordinator of the parent project. So for instance, if you are a research institution in a widening country, so you have a particular idea that might fit to an already ongoing project, you can contact the coordinator. You can also use the help of the NCPs, and then the coordinator would submit a proposal with an enlarged consortium with you as an additional partner. But of course, this has to be justified by a scientific or innovation rationale, by an added value, and then the additional budget that is needed will be paid from this facility. So that is in a nutshell. Further information will also be available at our info days on the 9th July, when this will be presented again, and then we will also publish a number of documents on our website. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefan, and well done on the timing. I have
I did
been.
better now, yeah.
You did much better, thank you.
Welcome.
I am delighted to report that we've had 360, 370 participants for most of the session, which is very good. And we currently have 343. We have received lots of questions. I must say, in some ways, it's easier to be a moderator in person than online, because there are so many different screens that we have to follow and appear to be fluent. Joao, who has been monitoring the chat and sending it to us in the background. There are mainly questions, I think, for Stein and Stefan. And I think I will hand over. Stein, are you there to take over? Because you can read out the question and then give the answer, which is what I think we agreed in the background.
Yes.
Or would you
happy to do that,
Yeah,
Karen.
do,
So
it's
one of the
easier.
questions addressed to me was, how should proposals for this call differentiate from proposals submitted more recently to the EIT Higher Education Initiative? So the question is addressed to the European Excellence Initiative under the Widening. Now, the initiative under the EIT was launched by the EIT Raw Materials KIC. There are some similarities, but also differences. It is focused primarily on innovation, entrepreneurship, and knowledge sharing, while the Excellence Initiative is providing support for any type of institutional change, including regarding careers, regarding sharing of infrastructures and practices, mainstreaming of open science. So the initiative under the Widening is going a bit broader. But also the EIT initiative is interesting for institutions who want to explore more the entrepreneurial side. And here about 20 projects will be funded for a budget of about a bit more than 1 million. Another question received was, how will synergies with Erasmus Plus for the European Excellence Initiative work with UK partners who cannot participate in Erasmus but have full Horizon participation? So I can confirm that UK partners will be able to join this European Excellence Initiative call, as they will be associated. For the moment, UK partners will not be able to receive funding for the future European Universities Initiative under Erasmus. But for this call, they can participate. So over to you, Karen.
Thank you very much, Stein. Stefan, are you there? There's a question for you on HEI. But Stein asked you to. Stefan? Hi.
Can you, leading HEI? Yes, that is correct. A leading higher education institute is that would follow the definition used under twinning.
Okay, thank you. I think that is the only question, and in fact, it's very good timing. Again, I'd like to thank Joao in the background because for dealing with all the chats. Excuse me. And I would also like to, tell you that the sessions will be recorded. The session will be available on YouTube, and at some point you will also be able to get the presentations. Stefan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just discovered in Slack a question on the Excellence Hubs.
Sorry if I missed it.
One of the questions was asking for kind of complementary financing for the Excellence Hubs. I think this is indeed a very important question. I would just like to say that at the proposal stage, this is not required. But what will be expected that you use the investment plan as one of the core components of this project to develop here an approach how to access complementary financing. So this is somehow backloaded into the implementation phase of the project and is not an upfront requirement like for teaming. I hope this answers the question. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? There are. Okay, I think The Excellence Hubs question, I think Stefan has already answered. Is there an expectation that coordinators for this instrument will need to provide financial contribution from other sources to sustain Hub's activities in the long term?
Yeah, this is what I already
Yeah,
said. This
yeah,
would be
okay.
subject to the investment plan to be developed in the project. Of course, we are aiming at sustainable project and the activity should be continued. The question whether this would be a one-off call cannot be answered because it has a bit of a pilot character, but I'm confident that it will be successful, and then there's a good chance that we will have further calls of this scheme in later work programs.
Okay, thank you, Stefan.
You're welcome.
And as we're finishing just on time at 1 o'clock, I would like to thank all of our excellent speakers for their contributions today, and the audience for joining us. And don't hesitate to contact us if you have any further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And thank you, Karen.
Thanks.